Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz. This is Ron's Bank Shop Breakdown. We're going to go over 5 college basketball games for Saturday, February 11th, 2023. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your college basketball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my $15 Bank Shop best bet, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com. Alrighty, let's get into it. Here are the games for Saturday, a loaded card in college basketball. First up, we go to the SEC as Missouri takes on Tennessee. This one's going to be a 6 o'clock Eastern start time. It's going to be on SEC Network. I think it's a good spot to take Tennessee as the Vols have lost 2 of their last 3, including an upset loss to Vanderbilt in their last game. But both of those games were in true road spots, and now back at home, it's really tough to beat the Vols when they're playing at home. And I do think that this matchup on paper benefits Tennessee in this one. You know, Missouri, a team that forces plenty of turnovers and takes care of the basketball, but the big issue I have with Missouri is the fact that they're ranked 362nd in the country in defensive rebounding percentage. Tennessee, the number 2 team in the nation in offensive rebounding percentage. So even though Tennessee's offense is not a great shooting offense, they're ranked 227th in effective field goal percentage. They have some issues turning the ball over here and there, but the big thing is they're going to be getting a lot of second chance opportunities in this one against a bad defensive rebounding team like Missouri. And I think, if we see 15 plus offensive rebounds for Tennessee, which is not crazy to think of, I think the Vols are going to be able to score 75, maybe even 80 points in this game. We know Missouri likes to play really fast pace. So although Tennessee not necessarily used to that, they like to slow things down. I think they'll be fine playing at that tempo, especially on their home court. Tennessee number 1 in the country in adjusted defensive efficiency. So this is the number 1 perimeter defense in the nation. Bodes well against a pretty high-flying offense of Missouri. I just think it's a bad matchup for the Tigers, and especially with Tennessee coming off the loss, I think we see a fired-up performance for the Vols on their home court. So give me Tennessee. I'm going to lay the points. Next up, we go to the Big 12 as Kansas takes on Oklahoma. This one's going to be 1 o'clock Eastern. It's going to be on CBS. Now, we faded Oklahoma quite a few times on the Bank Shop Breakdown this season, and this is another spot where I'm fading the Sooners. I'm going to take Kansas, and I'm going to lay the points. A pretty reasonable number to lay with the Jayhawks, in my opinion. Now, Oklahoma has lost 3 straight games, and yes, 2 of those losses were on the road against tough teams in West Virginia and Baylor. But just overall, Oklahoma has lost 6 of its last 7. There's a few home games in that span. They just haven't played very well on the offensive side of things, and the defense is also now starting to struggle, giving up 82 points to Baylor in the last game, 93 points the previous game at West Virginia. And Oklahoma's had big issues turning the ball over this season, ranked 268th in the country. They don't earn many offensive rebounds. They don't get to the free throw line. So we mentioned at the beginning of the season, Oklahoma was relying on making a lot of tough shots at high percentage rates, which Grant Sherfield is one of the best shooters in college hoops, but for a full season, especially in a very tough conference against very tough defenses, you just can't expect that from an Oklahoma team. Their defense has been good, but not good enough, in my opinion. And Kansas, coming off a nice win over Texas by 8 points, 88-80. They scored 88 points in that game, despite Kansas only shooting 2 of 10 from 3, 20% from the perimeter. Shows you they're scoring a lot of sustainable buckets down low. I think Kansas scores plenty of points in this game and does enough to win this one on the road. This first meeting between these two was a close one at Kansas, but I think Kansas wins this game and covers the number. So give me the Jayhawks. I'll lay the points. Next up, we go to the ACC as Clemson takes on North Carolina. This one's going to be 2 o'clock Eastern on ESPN2. I think this is a really good buy low spot on North Carolina. I know Clemson's lost 2 games in a row themselves, but the Tar Heels have lost 3 straight games. 2 of those games, their last 2 were in true road spots. They gave up 92 points last time out against Wake Forest, but I still think, on paper, this is one of the more talented teams in the conference. I think overall they're going to be just fine when we get to postseason play. And North Carolina, on paper, this is a team that's struggling to shoot the basketball, plainly said. Last year this was the 60th best three-point shooting team. This season, they're ranked 329th in the country in three-point percentage as a team, but there's a lot of the same players that was on last year's North Carolina big run, all the way to the NCAA tournament final team. Caleb Love, Armando Bacot, RJ Davis, all back for this season. So I still think the talent on this team cannot be denied. And, Clemson, I don't think is a very good matchup. There's a team that struggles offensive rebounding wise. In North Carolina, we know a very strong front court. They should be able to get plenty of second chance looks in this game and also hold Clemson to 1 shot per trip. North Carolina takes care of the basketball. They get to the free throw line. And overall, their offense in terms of shot quality has not been too bad. I think North Carolina puts on a show offensively in this game against a pretty weak Clemson defense and wins this one and covers the number in the end. So give me North Carolina. I'm going to lay the points. Next up, we go to the Pac-12 as Washington takes on Washington State. A late night game here at 10:30 Eastern. It's going to be on the Pac-12 network. both programs have had disappointing years this year. Washington 13-12 overall, so a winning season thus far, but 5-9 in conference play. You just wonder when Mike Hopkins is going to be able to take this team to the next level. Hasn't been this year, and they're ranked outside the top 100 in KenPom. On the other side, a team that had some pretty big expectations going into the season in Washington State. They're now 10-15 overall, 5-9 as well in conference play. But I will say the Cougars have been a lot more competitive when they're playing on their home court in the conference. They played a lot of close games. They also have some nice wins at home in the Pac-12. They have beaten USC. They beat Arizona State as well. They competed down the wire with UCLA. And I do think it's going to be a tough spot here for Washington. Still a rivalry game. I think Washington State is the better team by far on paper. I think the biggest advantage that Washington State has is the rebounding game. And when you look at Washington, the Huskies, their numbers 245th in offensive rebounding percentage, 340th in defensive, while Washington State 72nd on offensive rebounding, 89th in defensive. So not only are they going to be getting a lot of second chance looks, they're also going to be holding Washington to one shot per trip. And this is not a very good Washington offense. They're ranked 237th in the nation in effective field goal percentage. They turn the ball far too much. They don't really get to the free throw line much either. I don't see where the points are going to be consistently going for Washington in this game, and their defense has not been in good form either. Normally, Washington in that 2-3 zone that Mike Hopkins uses from Jim Boeheim usually plays pretty well, but down the stretch, we're seeing 95 points allowed to Arizona. Gave up 70s to UCLA not too long ago, but then 80 points allowed in their last game against USC. Can't trust Washington in this spot on the road. Give me Washington State. I'm going to lay the points. And the final game we're to talk about for Saturday's card in college basketball, it's going to be in the WAC as Stephen F. Austin takes on UT Rio Grande Valley. This one's going to be 7:30 Eastern on ESPN+. Now, in the first meeting between these two teams, we took the over here on the Bank Shot Breakdown. The game went under by a few points. It was a final score of 83-66. But in that game, we saw an extremely low-scoring first half. It was 32-22 in the first half at halftime. But in the second half, we saw this game open up, unbelievably. It was 51 points themselves that Stephen F. Austin scored in that second half. Both teams had plenty of fast break opportunities on both ends of the court, and I think we're going to see more of what we saw in the second half of that game for a full 40 minutes in this game. I like the over. When you look on paper, both teams like to speed things up both on offense and defense. UT Rio Grande Valley is 5th in the country in adjusted tempo, 4th in the nation in average possession length defensively. Part of that's because their defense has not been very good this year. On the other end, Stephen F. Austin is 80th in the country in adjusted tempo. There's 19th in average possession length on defense. Their defense is really aggressive. They've struggled in terms of the effective field goal percentage that they're allowing their opponents to get. They're not a really good defensive rebounding team. They take a lot of fouls on defense, but they also force a ton of turnovers. So, UT Rio Grande Valley is the 4th worst team in college basketball in turning the ball over this season. We should see Stephen F. Austin have plenty of fast break opportunities on the other end, forcing plenty of turnovers in this game. But the downside of that, when you play that aggressive defense, you take a lot of fouls. UT Rio Grande Valley is number 2 in the country in free throws attempted over field goals attempted. We should see UT Rio Grande Valley at the free throw line almost all night in this game. We saw it in the first matchup. Both teams had over 20 free throw attempts, and both teams didn't have their best shooting night, especially from the perimeter. Stephen F. Austin is a 5th in the country in three-point shooting as a team. In that game, in that first meeting, they shot below their season average. They only made 5 3-pointers. I expect better numbers shooting the ball in this game. I think we're going to see both defenses really struggle. I'm going to take the over in the Stephen F. Austin UTRGV game. And that's it. Those are the games for Saturday in college hoops. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your college basketball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.